Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Amma ba'd. Ahabati fillah, Allah tabarak wa ta'ala throughout the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam encourages us to do righteous deeds and encourages us to compete in doing righteousness, that we should actually be striving, exhorting one another, encouraging one another, competing with one another to do those things which please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It doesn't mean that we're competing out in the open and we are trying to make someone else seem less in their deeds. But the point is to be a believer in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and strive to do those things which please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Striving, fighting to get the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be the first to give in the cause of Allah, to be the first to stand for Qiyam al-Layl, to be the first to fast the extra days of fasting, Mondays and Thursdays. And something very important I want to mention while the door is opened up, while I've just opened up the door, is the importance of getting Sitta min Shawwal. That the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man sama Ramadan thumma itba'ahu sitta min Shawwal kana kisiyam ad-dahr." The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said, "Whoever fasts the month of Ramadan, then follows it up with the 6 days of Shawwal, kana kisiyam ad-dahr." It's as if they fasted the whole year. So the reward is immense. The effort is little in comparison to what you've already accomplished by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So do not let Shawwal get past you without having fasted those 6 days. And that is an encouragement first for myself and for my brothers and sisters in Allah, in Islam, Lillah Azza wa Jal. Ahabati fillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says في كتابه الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Asr, He tabarak wa ta'ala swears by the time, letting us know time is something valuable. Anytime Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by something in the Quran, then we know that it is something which has great import. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions anything, of course, in the Quran, that it must be, we must give special attention to it and care, and that it has immense significance. So Allah tabarak wa ta'ala swears by the time. He subhanahu wa ta'ala says, wal asr, by the time. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tabarak wa ta'ala is the only one who can swear by His creation. Who can swear as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives import to certain matters that He swears by. But He, tabarak wa ta'ala, is the only one who can swear by His creation. And when He, subhanahu wa ta'ala, swears by His creation, we often find that those are from the ayat kawniyah, that those are from the signs in the creation which give us evidence that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists and is the only one worthy of worship. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here swears by the time, and we know how important time is. In every society, they have different ways of measuring time, and throughout time and throughout history, they have measured time in a variety of ways, in a variety of instruments to try to measure the time. And it shows that mankind aslan gives great importance to time, because time had to do with how people measure when to plant their crops, when to harvest their crops, maybe the hunting season, maybe the season when it's going to be cold, the winter and the summer when it's going to warm up. And even in the most basic societies, that they have a concept of time and they need that in order to, they use time to measure. to measure how to organize their lives and how to organize around their various activities. So Allah Ta'ala swears by the time, and then he says, Inna al-insana lafi khusr, all of mankind are in a loss. And then he makes exception, illa alladhina amanu, except those who believe, wa amalu salihat, and they do righteous deeds, wa tawasaw bil haqq, and they encourage one another to the truth, wa tawasaw bis sabr, and they encourage one another, exhort one another to patience, because you have to be patient when learning the truth. You know, it takes patience to seek knowledge, to seek beneficial knowledge, ilm nafi'a. Think about, even it takes patience for secular knowledge, knowledge that we want for the dunya. If you want to be a computer programmer, you're going to have to read lots of manuals. You're going to have to probably watch lots of videos. You're going to need to do a lot of coursework, or at least have some sort of activity where you're learning how to be a programmer. And that requires patience. That requires patience on that path. If you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, for sure, you have to do a lot of schooling in any society, and that requires a lot of patience. That means while others are watching videos and at home with their family and stuff, maybe you're late nights in the library. I know a Muslim, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him, alhamdulillah, he's doctor now. And always, you know, from the time of his high school, and now he is an actual doctor. May Allah bless him and preserve him. And I can recall how much he was always, you know, oh, I'm going to go to the library. Oh, Sundays I go to the library. You know, I'm doing this. He was always in the library. Then when he was going through his practicum and, you know, all of his studies, and just, he was busy for how many years? Now he's a doctor. It's just amazing, subhanAllah. And that required immense patience on his part. Immense patience. Also, he's Muslim, so he's also doing those things, and then being patient on ta'atillah, in obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in trying in his worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All that requires patience. Inna al-insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amalu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. And also the part of that is giving da'wah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The point I wanted to mention, Surah Al-Asr, was because as our topic was al-musari' ila fi'l al-khairat, that it is a topic which is talking about striving and racing to do righteous deeds. There are some nusus from the Quran and the Sunnah, and we are not going to talk about those things because this is meant to be super brief, because I'm going to get ready to go and do some work, actually to record for Al-Athari Institute. So I just wanted to, while I was having this coffee, to share with my brothers and sisters, and I was just looking for something we could just touch on, just to have some engagement, to remind one another, to benefit from one another. And I thought, and then this is a very beautiful book. It's called Hayat al-Salaf Bain al-Qawl wal-Amal. It's called The Life of the Salaf Between Actions and Statements. Meaning that the Salaf al-Salih, what makes them, aside from their excellence as far as being the first three generations and being close to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and close to the Prophet ﷺ, it's because of their tatbiq. It's because of their practice. It's because that their statements and their actions were in accordance with righteousness. That's what they actually did. They actually thrived off of worshiping Allah Azza wa Jal. And that's what we find in their texts, or in the texts that codify the minhaj of the Salaf, those texts which have so many statements of the Salaf compiled and collected and narrated. And that's what we see from their narrations, how they was really so different than we are. And I'm talking about all of us, really. Alhamdulillah, we have Ahl al-Ilm, we have the people of knowledge, and those are our best of examples, is our scholars, and those Tulab that really walk in their light. But most of us even if we claim to follow the Salaf, follow the madhab of the Salaf and the minhaj of the Salaf, we're really far. And the reason is in this bab, because regarding our statements and our deeds, we're lacking so much. It's easy. I can continue all day, and we can go through Aqidat al-Wasatiyya, we can go to Aqidat al-Tahawiyya, we can go to Usul al-Sunnah, we can go to Sharh al-Sunnah, Imam Barbahari. We can go through all these beautiful texts of the Salaf al-Salih and those who came after them. But when it comes to practicing that knowledge, that is the most challenging thing for most of us. And that's where many of us fall short. And I'm talking even those who are yantasib al-ilm, those people who are associated with seeking knowledge. Me being first and foremost. So when I'm talking about this, I'm not belittling any of our tulab al-ilm or those mashayikh in the Western societies or what have you, but I'm talking about more myself, and here I'm teaching when I need to be taught, and I need myself to be correcting my deeds. And so this is very important that we learn that aspect of the madhab of the Salaf, which has not been emphasized for us in the West very much. In the past, a lot of people with the dawah to Salafiyya, they only associated with a rad, with refutations, and with attacking others and attacking Ahl Bid'ah and gaining the tools to attack Ahl Bid'ah. That's it. That's a part of the madhab of the Salaf, la shak. And that's imperative because that's the protection and preservation of Islam. But a huge part where many of us fell short is our statements and our actions weren't the same. We have some of the people who are known for supposed some scholarship that are threatening people with weapons and things like this. We have brothers who beat their wives, and it's become public. Brothers who molested people, and these are students of knowledge. I'm talking about students of knowledge. I'm not talking about the general Muslims. So this is something why we hope that the new generations and the of Tulab al-Ilm will really adopt the minhaj of the Salaf. And I'm not saying there's so many Talabat al-Ilm who are not like that. I'm just mentioning some extreme examples. That the important thing, though, and there's a shift we see in the way the dawah is being presented. Even I saw this in Saudi Arabia. You saw where a lot of our scholars began to emphasize manners more because they saw what was happening around the world, that there was a lot of shortcomings with a lot of the people's actions and people striving, that, you know, the tulab weren't concerned about their ibadah, but they were concerned about the faults of other mashayikh of Ahl Sunnah. That's what their whole world and their news network and their whole aim was to get involved in fitna, to know about the latest fitna and see how they can put their 2 cents in the latest fitna. But in fact, if we look to the madhab of the Salaf, we look to how the Salaf as-Salih were, we look to first and foremost the commands of Allah Azza wa Jal, and then the commands and examples of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then we look at the madhab of the Salaf, we'll see that it differed quite a bit. We'll see that they were really concerned about ilm wa amal, about doing righteous actions and knowledge and having a qawl muwafiq lil ilm, that their statements were in accordance and in agreement with their knowledge. And this is why Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi wa radiyallahu anhu, he said, or he entitled his bab, the chapter, Al-Ilm qabla al-Qawli wal-Amal. Al-Ilm qabla al-Qawli wal-Amal. That knowledge precedes statements and actions. Because the more knowledge that we have and we practice, that's the whole point, that we practice and we're implementing it, then it's going to govern our tongue and it's going to govern our heart and our actions. But if we really stay jahil, Even if we have all these books, we carry these books like the donkey, and we don't practice, these books and all of this khair will go against you. So this is an encouragement for myself and my brothers and sisters to make sure you practice. Make sure that your ibadah is improving. Because the Salaf used to say, one statement of the Salaf that is well known, attributed to the Salaf in general, that some of the Salaf used to say, you'll find this in some of the books. They used to say that al-amal thamarat al-ilm, that deeds, meaning good deeds, are the product or the fruits of knowledge. When you plant a tree, you plant the seeds, and it goes through its process, and it begins to grow, and you water it, and it grows and grows into a plant or a tree. So the Salaf made this analogy of the your deeds, your righteous deeds and actions, that those are the fruits of your knowledge. So knowledge is not just gained, especially for name and fame, but knowledge should be a means to bringing you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that it will be regarded as one of the strongest forms of ibadah, as the Salaf used to say, like Imam Ahmed, referred to talib al-ilm as a type of jihad, that is, if and he even said, he said, وَإِنْ صَحَّتْ نِيَّتُهُ, if his intention is correct. So meaning that talib al-ilm is like jihad. It's a type of jihad, lillah, if the person's intention is correct. So if your intention is to draw nearer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to lift off some of the ignorance from yourself, to practice better in your religion, and to share that with your brothers and sisters, then this is an excellent intention. And then you will have the thamarat al-ilm. The thamarat al-ilm, meaning because your intention, and the thamarat al-ilm is al-amal, that means your deeds will be reflective. You'll have better manners because you are seeking knowledge, and you'll have better manners. So that means you're striving in the khairat. And likewise, inshallah ta'ala, you will be a better believer. And that'll be in secret and in public. So in public, it's easy. It's easy to put on a good face, wear a nice thobe, and imama, your beard growing, your thobe is short. That's easy to put on the garb, to put on the garment, which is khair azim, because this is the outward appearance. This is khair. But the Prophet ﷺ said, "Inna fi jizd mudgha idha salaha salaha jizd kullu, wa idha fasadat fasada jizd kullu ala wa hiya qalb." The Prophet ﷺ said, "Verily in the body is a morsel of flesh. If it is sick, the whole body is sick. If it is healthy, the whole body is healthy. Verily, it's the heart." So that's why learning how to purify our hearts is one of the most important things that we could be doing. Purifying your heart, seeking to draw nearer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, purifying your intention, and striving with your deeds. So I'm just going to read a couple of narrations of some of the Salaf, with regards to this concept of al-musari' ila fi'l al-khairat, striving or racing to do good deeds. That's what the Salaf as-Salih were doing. That's what they were upon. Rahimahumullah jami'an. Whereas we strive, I don't know what we strive for. We strive for all kind of crazy things. But may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us and guide us and bless us to really be on the path and the minhaj and the madhab of the Salaf as-Salih. In a narration, and this is on Khalid ibn Ma'dan, rahimahumullah, rahmatullah alayhi rahmatin wasiya. He said, إذا فتح أحدكم باب or إذا فتح أحدكم باب خير فيسارع إليه فإنه لا يدري متى يغلق عنه. And this is you'll find this narration in Sir A'lam Nubala, which is a very important book of biographies of the Salaf, you know, and in the history of Islam. In this narration of Khalid bin Ma'dan, rahmatullahi alayhi rahmatin wasi'ah, he said, if one of you opens the door to good, then he should, or if the door of good is open for one of you, in fact, so then it should be futiha instead of fataha. So if the door of good is open for one of you, then strive for it, you know, race towards it, rush towards that bab of good. For verily one does not know when the door will be closed. Ahabati fillah, this hikmah from our Salaf is worth contemplating and worth us stopping on this narration for at least 30 seconds to a minute and contemplating the meaning. So Khalid bin Ma'dan, rahmatullahi alayhi rahmatin wasi'ah, he said, if the door of goodness is open, if it's open for one of you, then he should race to it, because no one knows when the door will be closed. Think about Ramadan. It's gone now. So if there was some big deeds that you wanted to achieve and accomplish, it's too late as far as the awqat of Ramadan. As far as having that happen in Ramadan, that part is gone. And it's gone forever until the next year. Meaning it's gone forever. The Ramadan that we experienced, this COVID-19, this 2020, that's gone. That's our history. Every one of us that's listening here, that's our history now. That's a part of, the past in our life. It's gone. You'll never be able to go back to that moment. You'll never experience that same time period. And so the deeds and the opportunities that you had to do righteousness in that time is gone. Now you have another day. You have another day, walillah alhamd, and hopefully another month. But we don't know. No one knows. No one's guaranteed anything. So we don't know when our time is over. When we die, when other things distract us and deceive us, all kind of things can be a harm to us and prevent us from the khairat. And this is why the Salaf, like Khalid bin Ma'dan, that he said that if the bab is open for you, then race to it. So think about when people do a charity or a fundraiser, and they say, we need this money for Yemen, for example, to alleviate suffering in Yemen or Syria and Idlib or whatever. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make all of their affairs easy and bless orphans and the sick and those who are persecuted and destroy the enemies of Islam who harm the believers. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them a kind of punishment that we all sit back in awe and reflect on how they hurt the believers and how they are belittled and destroyed. We want to witness this. I hope Allah blesses us to witness the humiliation of his enemies, those people who daily shoot old women and little children and blow them up. Those evil shayateen from jinn and men. We hate them lillah. And we hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala humiliates them and causes them to be an example for all of mankind. So, habati fillah, that time might be limited. Maybe they are bringing the funds together. They're saying, hey, we're doing a fundraiser. It's for Yemen, or we're building a well. We're building a masjid. We're doing this khairat. When you hear about those khairat, that's the time to rush toward. Those opportunities can be missed. Those opportunities to do righteous actions, they're going to go and they're going to be closed. Maybe they will raise enough funds or to the limit that they're able to give. Maybe there's limitations and they get that and you didn't share in that and you had the opportunity and you had the means. So that's why it's important to race towards the khairat. This is really the madhab of the Salaf. And that the Salaf reflected on death. They reflected on so many things. But we'll just stick with these couple of narrations regarding the race towards the good. وعن شعبة قال ما وعدت أيوب رحمه الله موعد إلا وجدته سبقني إليه. This is khairat. And it may seem little, but all of it shows good deeds. So here is a narration on Shu'bah. And he said, Rahmatullah alayhi, Rahmatan Wasi'ah, he said, I never had an appointment with Ayub, Rahmatullah Rahmatan Wasi'ah, except that I found that he had beat me to the appointment. So that is also, of course, keeping your promises, making your appointments. Those are also traits of Ahli Iman. And of course, we're talking about the Salaf. So of course, their appointments were appointments in righteousness and in goodness. That's what we refer to them as the Salaf Salih. Ridwanullahi alayhim. So it shows that even something like keeping your appointments and keeping your promises is absolutely imperative, and it is from good deeds. And that the Salaf even used to race with regards to those. So here he was praising Ayub because Ayub made, was there every time they made an appointment. He would always beat him. So Ayub was hirs. He was vigilant in safeguarding the time and trying to be on time and keep the promise, keep the wa'd. They looked at these things as ibadah, and that's the thing. We look at it, a lot of the actions we do, we just take them for granted. But the Salaf, they viewed all these things from the smallest deeds to the largest deeds as something great. As we see from some of the narrations of the Sahaba, radiallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in, on how they used to see sins. They said, we used to see sins that you do, that you see as if it's a fly to be swatted. And we used to see those same sins in our time as if they were a mountain about to fall on us. And that shows the difference. We can do major sins and it's easy for us. So we don't take the same kind of seriousness as our Salaf as-Salih. And that's why I want to encourage myself and you as well to be on the madhab of the Salaf and race towards good deeds, race towards righteousness. And in another narration, and this will be the last one, وقال حبيب أبو محمد رحمة الله عليه رحمة واسعة. He said, لا تقعدوا فراغا فإن الموت يطلبكم. And this you'll find, this narration, which is a very important book for those who know Arabic, and that is Mawsu'a Ibn Abi Dunya. This is like the encyclopedia or the collection of works of Ibn Abi Dunya. So there you'll find lots and lots, probably thousands of narrations of the Salaf and, things about the importance of manners. I have a beautiful copy here, which it looks like it's about 10 volumes or something like this. And it's something very important. So those who know Arabic and who go to Sardiya, or that's an important jewel. I think Ibn Rushd, Maktab Ibn Rushd, I think printed it. I'm not sure, but anyhow, in this this narration, this is the narration of Habib Abu Muhammad. He said, don't sit, when you have free time. He said, don't sit when you have free time. He said, for verily death is asking for you. I love those narrations of the Salaf. So some of them are like Jawami al-Kalam as well, that they're so comprehensive and powerful. Like they are not like the hadith of Prophet ﷺ, but the Prophet ﷺ had many ahadith. He was known for his Jawami al-Kalam, that he was known for speech that would be very little and full of meaning. And you'll find that the Salaf also had this type of hikmah, and you'll find many of their narrations were similar. And so in this narration, he said, don't sit in your free time because death is asking for you. Subhanallah. If we reflect on that in our lives, we'll be more serious about how we manage our time. And we'll be much more serious about about the good deeds that we do, about our striving to do deeds. And I'm so thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even that we had this chance to sit, because now it reminded me to do something good before this day is over. If I live to the end of the day, I got to do something. Hopefully Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts this sitting from us, because we know talab al-ilm and sharing knowledge and the reciprocal relationship, we're all gaining benefit bi'idhnillah ta'ala from these narrations of the Salaf. And if it's for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we get ajr. So that's one good deed. But we need more. We need many more. So before this night is over, I encourage myself and my brothers and sisters to do some good deeds. Try to get some forgiveness for some of the sins you were doing and that you continue to do. And do not forget to fast Sitta min Shawwal. Try to get on that ASAP, because time flies. I know I haven't started myself, just as to share with you. So I have to get busy. So maybe Monday I will begin, and I might just do Mondays and Thursday for a bit and then finish, because I'm trying to get my weight back up a little bit and just get myself back in shape a little bit. Well, I'm going to try anyway, inshallah. So it's very important, to encourage one another to righteous deeds and to do your best to do righteous deeds. We ask Allah Azza wa Jalla, the Almighty, to accept our good and forgive our evil. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. If there are any comments or questions, inshallah ta'ala, we will try to take them. If not, then inshallah ta'ala, we hope to be on khair. That's what we hope from Allah Azza wa Jalla. I'm currently in university studying secular studies and want to drop out, become a student of knowledge, but my parents object. I don't want to disobey them, but can this be an exception? No. Finish your studies. Finish your studies and do talab al-ilm as much as possible on the side. Soon as you finish your studies, then go out, inshallah ta'ala, and seek the path of knowledge. Because I'd imagine you're probably a young person, so you can do both. You can even get into the Islamic University up to 25 years old if you, those are their requirements there in Saudi Arabia, unfortunately. But yeah, you still have time. So I would encourage you to be obedient to your parents, continually to discuss this with them, but finish your secular knowledge as well, because that's a jama bayna khairin. I know a lot of brothers who went to the jamia, and you can see that there are a lot of sharp students too that excelled in both. They had finished their degrees already. They had already had bachelor's degrees from secular university in whatever their specialty was. I know one particular brother who's very excellent in Islamic finance. He's well known. And he was already, probably before Jama Islamiyya, he probably already had a bachelor's degree in, finance or economics or whatever his background is that. And that's what his specialty is. He's also, his fiqh. And so that is an excellent to have both worlds. So my advice would be to finish, because again, as I've said before, that, you know, it's all from Allah Azza wa Jal. But we see from the Sunnatullah that you need finances. The Talib al-Ilm, when you graduate, you're going to need money. You're going to need skills. That you may become an imam. You may become something. And a lot of times, even that path, you might be at the mercy of your community. That they are in control of you. Those are a lot of the situations I found from some of the students of knowledge that I was in, that I know, who graduated from Jama Islamiyah, for example. Then they became imams. A lot of them, they share their stories. And the brother Sajid Lipham, he's done several interviews with some of those ex-students. I mean, they're still students in their mashayikh or what have you, in their right. That he's done he's done some nice interviews with some of those brothers, and about their experience for the Talib al-Ilm, what they can expect. So it's very important, I say, to tie your camel. And I encourage all of you as youth and whatever to try to get independent. Financial independence is so key. And I wish I would have focused on that, you know, throughout my time. But I didn't really, you know, I didn't have that guidance. I didn't know. But I really encourage you. And even now, I'm trying to find financial independence. Financial, not even, no issues. I never have to ask anybody. I could, you know, sit in here and learn and teach and really come, you know, hit it hard. But that only comes with the financial independence. You need finances to finance your dawah. Some people have that kind of backing. Look at many of those big du'at from Ahl Bid'ah often, that they have massive communities behind them. They start universities like Zaytuna Institute and other things like this. They're on a whole nother level. Their things are worth millions of dollars. Okay? That's not our goal, is millions of dollars. But the point is you need backing, or you need your own independence, which is the best. And that comes through business, or it comes through, you know, having certain skills to where you're not in need. You're not asking. You can do your thing. And even myself, by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all my books, my library is twice as big as this. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, tabarak wa ta'ala. But half of it is in storage in Washington. And it hasn't seen the light of day in like 10 years. And that's because I'm not having the ability, because I had to myself buy the books, send the books. You know, I don't have a community like that. We don't have that in Washington. Only those really popular, you know, it's difficult. It's very different than I think a lot of other places. And there really isn't the support. You know, they want you to do lectures. They want you to do, and I never thought about money until I was broke and I couldn't even afford the gas to do the lecture. I can recall once when I came back from Saudi and I was going to leave Saudi, then I ended up going back, and, you know, I couldn't even afford. They asked me to do a khutbah in one community. It was very far. And I wanted to. And I felt humbled and shy, but I had to say, you know, is it possible just to get a little gas money? Because I don't, you know, it's expensive. You know, right now we're in the financial crisis. It was during the crisis, the last crisis, 2000, whatever, 7, 9, 10, whatever it was. And the point is you need independence. So wealth is very important for dawah. Wealth is very important for dawah. It's just the reality. Because if you don't, you'll be talking to yourself, you'll be broke, and you will not be able to support anything that you want to do. It's all from Allah Azza wa Jal, but it comes in the way of wealth. So that's why it's very important, I encourage you to learn skills, to be able to give yourself options, and to have, strive to have financial independence. Because the one who is blessed with that, they're the ones who can give and do things. And this reminds me of the brother, rahmatullahi alayhi rahmatul wasi. I didn't know much about him. The youngster from Australia, I think his name was Ali, or I can't remember his name, who died of cancer. He was a young man, but he was, he had so much wealth, Lamborghinis, all kind of stuff. But then, alhamdulillah, he was diagnosed and he changed his life, and he was going and doing dawah in Africa, and spending his wealth, building schools and things like this. That's because you have the wealth. That is an important tool and ingredient to building community, to building, to doing dawah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Likewise, whatever your view is of, for someone, like example, Habib, and I don't have to say his last name, I can't pronounce his last name, but everybody knows him, the world-class MMA fighter. Whatever your view is and on how he makes his money and stuff, the fact is, he is not just for Dagestan, but he's probably a millionaire or whatever. And alhamdulillah, Allah favored him. He has deen. So he goes, and he went when he had that time off after the McGregor fight. What did he do? He did a trip to many African countries like Nigeria and stuff like this. He was busy, and he was spending in the cause of Allah Azza wa Jal because of wealth. So that's why I encourage you to gain halal wealth where there's no doubt in it, and that way you can do the things you want to do. So to make a long story short, finish your degree, look at other ways to financial means and opportunities, take those opportunities, build your skills, and then go to the Islamic University or whatever opportunities open up for you to, I'm going to have to close this door because these flies are bothering me. Whatever opportunities open up that you can you can study Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's deen. So it's very important to look at those opportunities. Now, see if there's anything else. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The garment play a big role in the heart. No, but your garments can be a reflection of the heart. They can be, because this is like the ultimate to be more, not perfect, but to be on a more complete. So, for example, the one who does, who is inshallah ta'ala, a good person in the heart, and they're doing the righteous deeds, and they have a good intention to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, well, then their outward appearance is going to have some reflection of that as well. It will definitely eventually be reflected outwardly as well. Unfortunately, a lot of us, we embrace the outward appearance and we forget the inward appearance, and that's our insides, our hearts. And that was what I was driving at in the beginning of this sitting or this lecture, is the importance of following the Salaf in totality by working on the heart and purifying oneself. And so it's very important, ahabati fillah, to strive for the inward and the outward appearance of righteousness, that they match, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. May Allah bless you with tawfiq. A lot of questions all of a sudden just jumped up out of nowhere. Can you recommend books in English with beneficial gems from the statements of the Salaf? I can't, but I know there's a lot that are translated you can download for free. I've downloaded some stuff for free. So just type in words of the Salaf. I think there's some compilation like that. Also, the brother at midoth.net, Abu Abbas Yahya, he's doing a lot of good works, and he's got a lot of good stuff there translated in English on midoth.net, the English site. While there's no perfect English translation of the Quran, someone still learning out of which English translation would you suggest? I like to have several of them, really. Unfortunately, some that are excellent in language, linguistically, that are very good, they have so much bid'ah in their aqidah in the footnotes. Like the classic text that a lot of us got, the classic translation we used to get was the Yusuf Ali one. May Allah have mercy upon him. But if you look at his footnotes and his aqidah, you'll find many mukhalafat. But from a linguistic point of view, it's very good. It's a high caliber of English because, again, the translation should be articulated well in that language. Okay, it shouldn't be sloppy English, but yeah, it seems like it's closer to the meaning. Okay, so it's very confusing. I used to give out as gifts, the Noble Quran, which is printed by the King Fahd Press, with the Ali Khan, I can't think of his name. May Allah bless them for their excellent works, but it's very confusing, those footnotes, because they're trying to shove so much. And that's why I think, this comes to really the skill of translation. Translation is of different types. There's the literal translation, which a lot of us do, which a lot of the lectures you hear, people literally translate. But really, and this is what I've tried to move away when I do have to translate, I try to focus more on the meaning, because ultimately I'm trying to convey the meaning of the text, not just the literal translation. Because especially people when they're in their beginning stages of translation or what have you, and you still find this even from a lot of experienced translators, because they're not professional in that sense. They were trained in a school or whatever, but they just know they're English speakers, native speakers, and they became fluent in Arabic or what have you from graduating from Islamic universities and stuff. But I've seen some people, even in their early stages of translation, some of the stuff they were producing was unreadable and made no sense in any language. So then that shows it's not going with the qasd, the intent you want to get. And that's why you see on a lot of the translation of the meanings of the Quran. So trying to stick as close to the text as possible without losing the meaning. That's very important. One deal. Let's see. I said I want a reward for you for your lecture. Please, can you send me your library picture? I like it. This is my email. Sorry, I'm not gonna send you my library picture. If you can see what's in my book, alhamdulillah. One Deobandi Sheikh I used to keep contact with says that meaning of Salafi is different today than what it used to mean. Has the term Salafi changed throughout time? We talked a little bit about the madhab of the Salaf in a lecture just recently. Salafi, in bil ikhtisar, in a short, it just means one who is trying to practice the madhab of the Salaf. They're trying to follow the minhaj, the methodology of the Salaf, how the Salaf approach the divine text. You'll find many criticism amongst the most known severe critics now in contemporary times as Dr. Yasir Qadhi, of criticizing Salafiyya. For example, in his work, Salafi Matters, or whatever it's called, something like Salafi Matters, or maybe the magazine's Muslim Matters, and Salafi, something on Salafi Islam. So you see that he articulates a lot of the arguments of the disbelievers who criticize Salafiyya. Same arguments. His classification, like Wiktorowicz, which is well known, he's a well-known critic of Salafiyya, and he presented to Congress. So Yasir Qadhi mimics a lot of those arguments. The point is, Salafiyya, there's no doubt, as individuals and our scholars and all of us, we are a product of our time. Our issues that we deal with in contemporary times are not going to be the exact issues that they dealt with 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago. But the minhaj, the madhab, the methodology is the same. The same way of going back to the text, of going back to those divine texts and the nusus of the early scholars, the classical scholars, to try to derive a ruling about contemporary issues. Now, some of the critics, they will say, like Dr. Qadhi and like another professor he is in University of California system, I think. He's an Egyptian. His name is Fadl, Al-Fadl. And he's also like Mu'tazila or something like this in his Aqidah. It's just like, and he's a progressive modernist Muslim. Wow. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us in him. And they also have very similar arguments and saying, and they mention something very important, that la shak, there's intention of trying to deal with contemporary issues with old solutions. There is a tension there, no doubt. But this madhab is a divine madhab, and that's where we differ. Dr. Qadi says, no, it's not divine. It's just man-made. We say no, that this is the madhab of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the scholars over time, they upheld that madhab, that minhaj, and there was qawa'id and usul that were preserved in order for us to use those texts and go back to the classical text always in order to even deal with contemporary solutions. That doesn't mean we don't take into consideration contemporary issues and things like this, but it's the methodology of how to deal with it. If you look at a lot of Ahl Bidah, they will discard the Salaf totally. They'll say, no, this is a new issue, COVID-19, do this, do that, and it's on their desires. And it's on their they don't have a foundation to really stand on in that sense. Ahlus Sunnah, nam, they go back to the madhab of the Salaf. So that's in a short answer, I guess, as best as I can do. Many people earn their wealth in haram, then become righteous and use their wealth. Is this even halal? Well, what are they supposed to do with their wealth? Would you rather they just give it to this? So, of course, they can use their wealth, but their wealth should not be used for building masajid and things like that, especially masajid. But other things, we would need to ask the scholars to get a better tasawwur of this issue about how to get rid of, for example, if they were a criminal. Well, now he's a Muslim. Say if he was a big-time drug dealer and he made millions. What if Escobar or whoever, or the other one, if he became a Muslim now and all his wealth, his hidden wealth became to light, and he said, I want to spend this in the cause of Allah. Well, there are certain things he could do with it and certain things he couldn't. He couldn't build masajid with that because they need to be yuassis ala taqwa. It needs to be built on taqwa and piety. But maybe other projects and other things he could do with it. But there would be no reward because it was haram, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Sheikh Salih al-Sheikh said, recording that the Algerian government are kuffar. Should we agree with the Sheikh? Sheikh Salih al-Sheikh. Is this contemporary? I can't imagine he, But it's not about whether you should agree with the Sheikh, whether you agree with the Sheikh or not. It's not, you're missing the issue totally. The issue is, if the Sheikh made takfir, and he, and he's known for his piety and stuff, so if it is true, I have thiqah with that alim. He's an alim. He's no joke. Sheikh Salih al-Sheikh is no joke in ilm and fiqh and his aqidah and just dawabit, And so if this is true, then of course, like any of the scholars, we need to look at their dalil needs to be, their evidence would have to be looked at, of why they would make this hukum. So it's very important, that did, what are the, are there the dawabit and the criterion, the mu'ani of takfir, are they in place, the shurut to takfir, and things like this, which we know he's not a person of hawa, so it's not a light matter. So first, I would say you need to affirm that. Secondly, think about what is the use of you knowing that. I don't know if you're in the West, maybe if you're in Algeria, but for me, it's not going to have any effect on my life, whether he may takfir to them or not, and whether they're disbelievers or not. It really affects me nothing. What affects me more on that I'm seeing in the street is actually, can I go out safely, or is there a police going to put a knee on my neck? That affects me directly. That affects my sons, So that affects me much more than his alleged takfir of the Algerian government. Another thing I want to say that you need to be very careful of, that we find all over the YouTube and stuff like this, cut and paste. Be careful, because I'm amazed. SubhanAllah, in Arabic you find this all the time. And of course, min bab al-awla in English. You'll see something like, I've seen so many clips the Hizbis use. They'll say, Sheikh Salih bin Fawzan refutes Sheikh refutes Rabi bin Hadi. They won't even give him the title Sheikh. And so they'll try to use the statements of other scholars totally out of context. This is a very dangerous thing, and it's a trait of Ahl Bidah. And some people who claim Salafiyah do the same thing. They do the same thing. So that's why it's very careful that we have to be cautious about what we hear and what we relate and what we read. And it takes intellect too. Because a lot of this stuff you can see it a mile coming. I say, whoa, did the Sheikh say this about Sheikh so-and-so? Sheikh so-and-so is Mubtadi'ah, according to Sheikh Imam Fawzan. Sheikh Salih Suhaimi said this. And then if you listen what was said in Arabic, you can see that the people who made the YouTube clip, their qasd, their intention was to belittle this other scholar, to advance their agenda and try to give it authenticity from a general statement that this alim said. Okay? So you see this all the time. It's a very dangerous tactic. They need to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but unfortunately many people don't. But you see it all the time, and we see it all the time in English too. How many people have spoken about Ahl Bidah or spoken about other people from Ahl Sunnah, and they just cut and paste, they lie, they infer, there's no benefit of the doubt. It's always it's just out of context. It's out of context and it's out of pocket. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us in them. So be very careful of those things. As it was done with me, may Allah forgive the brothers, and they corrected it. They took it off. They cut and said Khalid Green on Salafi pubs and something. Well, I didn't say that about those guys, but I just said in general. I kept it very general. Anybody who falls under this criterion, okay. But it wasn't a direct attack on those guys or anything like this. So we have to be very careful to read in and just use things to arm ourselves and our agenda. Be very careful. The time is fine. Can we look for halal sunnah woman online if the chance of meeting someone outside are small? Yes, you can. And that's what, I think many of the scholars have talked about that, because we don't always have the same means for finding marriage. We may not have families. We may not have those kind of ties and things like this. So, of course, you can, but just be very careful in those kind of, when you get into those websites and stuff like that, be very careful and cautious with regards to those issues and chatting with the women and things like this. Be very careful. But yes, you can look online because now we live in a social media world, a socially connected world, and this is just one of the important means. I mean, you're not around people, especially now. Now here around this is what I see. If I go out there, maybe I'll find the rattlesnake I shot yesterday. Okay, so there's nobody here. So where human beings connection is often through the social media, and that in order for sisters that are single, they live in a place by themselves, they live way out, they're isolated, or brothers and whatever, then they have to use whatever halal means to make it known, hey, I'm seeking a spouse, I'm looking to get married. So there's no problem with that. Bi'idhnillah ta'ala, may Allah bless us all with tawfiq. Ameen. Is there a sin of me if I have the means to go study deen but choose to stay and take care of parents? No, of course not. Very important. Very important to know that talib al-ilm, as the Prophet ﷺ said, talib al-ilm faridatun ala kulli muslim or muslima. Seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim man and Muslim woman. That means the wajib knowledge. You need to know how to practice your basic deen. You need to know about aqidah. You need to know about wudu. It doesn't mean you have to go to the Islamic University, go to Egypt, go to Mauritania, go to Yemen or anything. That's not what it means. It means there's a certain degree of knowledge every Muslim needs to know. They need to know who Allah is, Tawheed. They need to know something about Tawheed. They might not need to know all the intricacies and all the issues of takfir and other bijahil and all. No, they don't need that. But they need to know the basics of their religion. So, with that being the case, as the scholars have mentioned many times, this question has been asked probably thousands of times to many scholars around the world. And they mention that, of course, that is wajib. So that wajib supersedes the extra, the recommended do. The recommended is to go seek knowledge. That's recommended, because you can do your wajib knowledge right there in wherever you are. As long as you're online, you can nowadays. But the obligation is to take care of your sick parents. Have the obligatory. Something about the wali. Is there sending me? Okay, but this is for the wali and it's online conversation. My favorite Salafi in the West is Malcolm X. Why don't we talk about him more? Rahmatullah alayhi rahmatin wasiyah. Malcolm X, Allah yarhamuhu, was not Salafi in that sense. You wouldn't say he was Salafi. Alhamdulillah, he was new Muslim, and he was a product of his environment, a product of his time. He was very new to Islam, really, and is embracing Islam. So he lived shortly, and we hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses with him with Jannah. And he was a cause for so many of us, and an influence on so many of us as in becoming Muslim, and influencing our lives and giving us that integrity and that shaja, that bravery, that he influenced so many people, Muslim and non-Muslim, around the world, black and white and other nationalities around the world, you know. Rahmatullah alayhi rahmatin wasiyah. But it would be stretching it to say that he was Salafi, or that he was a person of knowledge or something. He was a product of his time, that there wasn't much Islam in those times in America. I mean, there was many different manifestations. I talked to some of the what we call the old heads, like Sheikh Khidr and people like this, people from the older generation, about how they used to see, like, you know, the Bilal Phillips generation and stuff like this, that they used to regard, basically, you were either Sunni or you were the Nation of Islam, or you were Sunni or Shi'i. Everything was very black and white. So either you were Sunni in America in those days, is how they viewed it, and that could mean anything. You could have been Ashari Sufi, you could have been Takfiri, whatever, but it was just under the general guise of Sunni. Or a person could be, or they would be Shi'i, you know, from the Shia. And they didn't regard the nation, of course, as Muslim and other groups. But, and the five percenters, or Mr. York and his group, and all these others. So yeah, that's a little bit of, without opening up too many doors. Now, what is my stance on a madhab? And I've talked about this too. Should one choose one? If so, thank you. A madhab, most of the time you learn, most of the places you learn, that they kind of teach you from a madhab perspective. In Saudi Arabia, for example, their text, mostly that you'll find in the Islamic University, although they do other bigger texts like Fiqh Muqarana, like anyway, they do comparative fiqh and stuff like this, but mainly a lot of their institutes and in their schools, you'll find that they teach books that the masail are from the Hanbali madhab. Their fiqh, you know, the books, the texts they use are Hanbali. That's what they use. That's their sort of official madhab there. However, when you study with the ulama, I don't know any scholars there that I studied with, or that I'm even aware of there in Saudi Arabia, that believe in blind following the madhab necessarily, making taqleed. That instead, they look into the masail. They may have studied the masail, those issues, with the text of the madhab. And that's how a lot of times you will teach and you'll learn. You'll learn the masail according to the place you are in the madhab and your teacher. But that does not mean you stick only to your teacher, and that your teacher, everything he says is correct, and that you blind follow your teacher if it's in opposition to the text, meaning the Quran and the Sunnah. So no. So that's why I would say learning a madhab, there's no problem with it, as many of the ulama mention. And some even will say you have to. You know, those are big debates that even probably from the past. And, in order to learn the masail, You start somewhere. You're introduced to a text. And that text isn't according, for example, a lot of the texts that I studied and I'm more comfortable with are Hanbali texts, because that's where I studied. I spent my time in Saudi Arabia and in Yemen, and especially in Saudi. Those are the texts. If you go to the institutes there, you'll learn Umdat al-Fiqh, Umdat al-Ahkam in Hadith, in Ahkam al-Hadith. And those are the books, actually, I will be referring to when I'm teaching in Athari Institute. But we don't restrict the truth to the madhab, meaning the truth is the truth. The madhab is a means to get to the truth. That which is from the madhab which contradicts the truth, we discard it. We go with the most correct evidence. If it's with the Malikiyya, if it's with the Shafi'iyya, if it's with the Ahnaf, then we go with that. Whoever's evidence is the strongest. Whoever understands this issue, bi-idhnillah, the strongest. So there's a Naam. So, it's not about the madhab, but it's about the haqq, bi-idhnillah ta'ala. Wow, a lot of questions are growing up here. Yeah, we've talked a lot about that the family members, they ridicule the person. So you have to be patient and give them dawah and do the best you can. And if you can leave their house in the future because you see no change in them, then this will be better, because they're ridiculing the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. A lot of imams misuse the four madhabs to fit in the bid'ah due to lack of transparency. Follow them. During Ibn Abdul Wahhab's time, people misuse the madhab to divide into four jama'at. This is not Islam. Unity is from Salafiyah. Taqleed is for beginners, and to do taqleed against dalil can lead to shirk like in the previous nations. Yes. So taqleed Taqleed is also a complex issue. It's not as black and white as a lot of us would like to think. And this is why, seeking knowledge is so important, because the more you gain more knowledge, then you get more insight into these masail. For example, I dealt with this a little bit in my PhD, looking at how Salafis view Taqleed. Okay, just sticking with Salafi ulama. And in contemporary times, some of our scholars, like Imam Muqbil, was very staunch position, and you'll find this from the Yemeni mashayikh in general, very stern against taqleed, like absolutely no taqleed. And you'll find from scholars like Bin Uthaymeen and others, which I hold this view, and I think it's much more correct, that it's not as black and white as that, for example, Bin Uthaymeen gives some examples where taqleed is permissible, that there's muharram and then there's taqleed which is permissible, because it's impossible for you, I'm talking about everybody who's listening to me right now probably, to go into many masail in the deen. So you have to rely on those people who are teaching you. And you have a type of, they may give you some ayat and hadith, so they should give you. But it's not always going to be like that. You might say Bin Baz had this fatwa. Imam Al-Albani had this fatwa. And that's all you can say, because you don't have the ability to go into the issue. You don't have the time. You don't have the, whatever. And that's for the most of the Muslims. So that's why they have to have scholars who they trust from Ahl Sunnah, that there's going to be issues that they're going to have taqleed in, but it is not permissible to have taqleed in things of aqeedah, that, those things which every Muslim must know how to do. There's ilm ad-darura, there's knowledge which is an absolute necessity you need to know. Ibn Uthaymeen also outlines the fact that, for example, that even for scholars, there is a time he mentions as a permissible taqleed. And he's talking about, for example, an alim may refer to an alim in hadith because that's not his specialty, or because he doesn't have the time to go into the mas'ala. He doesn't have the time to do the research. And this alim has already done that research. That's why you find so many scholars, what do they say in a lot of our contemporary books? Scholars that respect the Imam Ahl Sunnah, and even people who don't respect necessarily all the Imams of Ahl Sunnah, they'll say, وَصَحَّهُ Al-Albani. They'll say, Imam Al-Albani said it was sound. That's it. They don't know, depending on their level of knowledge, and depending on their time and looking in the mas'ala, they might mention the reason he says that and some other aqwal, Or they'll just say, this is just from Imam Al-Albani's ahkam, meaning his rulings on these hadith. That's it. And that is a type of taqleed. That is, he's putting his trust in someone who is not dalil and using it as a type of dalil. I don't have the ability. I'll just say I don't have the ability, not just the time, but the ability. So I would definitely, when it comes to ruling on hadith, I would just take from those imam that are known for that, like Imam Al-Albani and many others. That I would look, oh, he said this was sahih, he said this was hasan. That's all I can say when I relate to you that hadith, because that is not a science that I put energy into, and I didn't sit and go through a lot of texts. I did very basic elementary study in the science of hadith. So I'm not qualified, nor is it really my interest, nor do I have time. Now, maybe in the future, if I am blessed with time, I can go into the science just to get stronger knowledge for the sake of my knowledge, but not because I have a passion for it, for some aspects of that science. But I rely upon those who we trust that are known from Ahl Sunnah, and there is an element of taqleed. Imam Al-Albani said it was sahih. Imam Al-Albani said it was hasan. Imam Arnaud said it was this. This is how so there is a level of taqleed, and that Ben Uthaymeen mentions that it's acceptable, and I believe that goal is the most correct. Muhajirin, Muhaddith are special imams. Yes, we can learn what we can. So anyway, I think we're going to end there because I need to do other things, and Maghrib is steadily approaching. When is Al-Athari? This will be the last thing. When can we come to you for brother and see the snakes? Snakes. There are lots of snakes, 2 legs around us. May Allah protect us. Boy, oh boy. I don't think you want to see those snakes. I'm not really happy about it. But anyway, alhamdulillah. Qadarullah ma shafa. We just be careful and cautious. When is Al-Athari to be up and running? May Allah bless you and put the barakah in the khair. Well, I don't know an exact timetable, but alhamdulillah, this has been a productive time where I've been able to get some things done, and I'm almost finishing up maybe the first and possibly the second level. I can do it maybe soon. Once I get a couple of levels together, then I will look into the platform and releasing, and some brothers have been helping me, offering time, Jazakallah khairan, have helped in giving me ideas and helped and also giving me concrete steps as well. So once I have more material, then I'll be in a position to be able to actually launch the platform. So I'm looking at various ways for the platform, but I'm still in the process of getting material together, recording material. So I want to have a couple of levels completely finished. But what I will do is I will be doing maybe some certificate courses once I get settled, because I'm going to have to eventually get a job, unfortunately, get back into the world. So as I manage my time and as I have better internet, because I'm still out here, then I'll be in a better position. I'll do some short certificate courses under Al-Athari. And, that'll be some things that hopefully we all can benefit from. But those will be separate. They'll be under the Athari Institute. They will not be a part of the actual official program and the official launching. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us with ikhlas, with thabat. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi.